Alright, so today I'm going to talk about the idea of the skill of strength. A lot of people out there want to get stronger, and a lot of what I talk about and the theme of my channel tends to be deadlifting and powerlifting. But, you know, all things fitness is considered, I am doing the CrossFit Open. It's not something I plan on excelling at, but I do want to be able to do the things that a human being can do, and CrossFit are one of those things to express things in. But before I get too far off topic, let's talk about the squat, bench, and deadlift and how strong you need to be, or how you can get stronger faster. And every time I train, every time I have a training session, whether I'm doing squat, bench, or deadlift, or if I'm doing all the lifts in one day, I always think about how can I get the best results out of the work I put in? What kind of adaptation do I want to get? And I think one of the things, or I do know one of the things, that if you are, again, it depends on what level you're at. If you're a beginner, you just need to get work done. It almost doesn't matter. You just want to make sure you don't injure yourself and you keep working hard. I mean, same goes for someone who's intermediate or advanced. But the intermediate, you need to go into the day thinking about what you're trying to accomplish. And what I mean by that, do you need to work on your skill? Do you need to work on your technique more? Is that what's really important? Is your bar path on the lift, squat, bench, deadlift, where it should be? Is your mobility where it should be? Because if your mobility isn't good, the bar path isn't, the bar is not going to move good. Are you trying to develop a new technique? Do you need more speed? Is it too slow? Are you trying to improve your grip strength? What weaknesses are you trying to improve? And so these are sort of the things that kind of go through my mind when I train. You know, I always like to think about the most amount of volume I can get. That's how I used to think. And recently I haven't been thinking about the most amount of volume simply because I've been feeling pretty beat up, and it seems like I'm getting beat up, but I'm not getting enough results from it. So I said, if I'm going to beat myself up and not get results, why not make some adjustments in other variables so that I can get results? And when I mean results, I mean feeling stronger week after week, because that's essentially all we're looking for. We are looking to feel stronger week after week. That is what you want to feel. And if training 5 or 6 days a week makes you feel like that every single week, then you should do that. But if it doesn't make you feel like that, then you probably shouldn't. And kind of what I was thinking about today, I was talking to my wife about her deadlift program. And her deadlift program is sort of similar to kind of how I approach things. Hers is a little bit more simple, so that she has some template to follow. And her deadlift program goes a deficit deadlift for 3 sets of 8, and then 4 sets of 5 reps of block pulls, 4 inches or 6-inch block pulls. And that's kind of what she's working on. She needs to work on her grip strength. I like deficit deadlifts to work off speed off the ground. I like 8 reps for volume because sometimes her consistency isn't so good, so the high reps really help with that. And then the block pulls are great to overload, to do more weight and get used to holding more weight. And 4x5, which is basically not really, it's heavy, but it's not heavy. You know, if you're training for powerlifting, 5 reps is actually a lot of reps. But a part of it is just building workload tolerance. So essentially, outside of her warm-up sets, just for her deadlift sessions, she has 7 sets, 3x8, and then 4x5, 4 sets by 5 reps. And I was talking to her today, and I was thinking, why not? I was thinking, should we do that once a week every Sunday, or what if we split it up over 2 days? Maybe we can do 4 sets of deficit deadlifts and 4 sets of block pulls, which is the same, and then just do 2 working sets on Sunday and then 2 working sets on Wednesday. Would that have a better result? And for some reason, I really feel like that it will. It'll help improve her consistency with working out, and I think it will help develop better grooving, because then you kind of have more touches. You know, I was thinking like this, like if you do 5 sets of 8, or let's just say 10 sets of 2 reps, right? What's that do? 10 sets of 2 reps means you're going to get 20 reps in, right? What if you do 2 sets of 10, right? That would be 20 reps as well, but it's only 2 sets. But if you do 10 sets of 2, what you're doing is you're essentially having to set up on the bar each time. That in itself is a skill, right? You're having to get tight on the bar, whether you're like for a back squat or a deadlift, setting yourself up, re-gripping the bar, positioning yourself to where your feet need to be when you approach the bar. It's sort of a psychological practice, but also a skill practice, because a lot of what you're trying to do is you're trying to learn how to set up. You're trying to position yourself in a way to get the most amount of weight off the ground in the best position possible. So where am I going with this? I'm kind of going on a tangent, kind of going over the place. Let me end this video and just kind of wrap this up. Is that whatever your goal is, like you're training a weakness, think about your weakness and train that. Improve that. Make that a big bulk of your training day, probably about 30 to 50% of your workload for the day. in my case, a lot of what mine has to do with is just general strength. So I do block pulls and deficit deadlifts. But I do need to spend more time doing block pulls because I'm having trouble at lockout. So those are just some things to consider. And then the other thing too is that if you're having trouble breaking the weight off the floor, you need to be doing more deficit deadlifts. Or a lot of the time, sometimes you need to work on core tightness. If you saw my previous deadlift video, I did some touch and go deadlifts where I'm holding very tight, like a very light touch and go, where I barely touch the ground and I come back up. And a lot of this is kind of tackling all my weaknesses. Each exercise I choose based on kind of my what my weaknesses are, and then trying to build my workout plan around that as I train. And if you kind of, and this is kind of how I think, I'm just trying to share my thinking process with you, is you kind of have a certain amount of fuel in the tank. This is kind of where I'll end it. You have a certain amount of fuel in the tank, and each working set, let's say warm up, each warm up set will take off like a little bit of energy, right? And then let's just say, once you hit to the bottom of the tank, you have no more quality left, right? Your quality sucks. So essentially you have your warm-up sets, right, to maintain safety and skill, and then you do your working sets. Then you do your heavy working sets. And then you do your other exercises, right? And essentially you get to a point where you're at the bottom with no more fuel in the tank, and you're basically out of gas. Or you can keep working with that small amount of fuel, but essentially you're not able to move as much weight anymore, and the quality of your workout suffers. So this is kind of why I think, I'm going to go off on a tangent, multiple, like two workouts a day are pretty effective for strength, because then you get a chance to really rebuild that tank. So you get to approach the bar and basically put more stress on your CNS and really try to tackle more weight. But let's just say you only have time to work out once a day. You want to make sure that the big bulk, when you have the most amount of energy, are devoted to things that need the most work. The things that need the most important. And in my case, with a deadlift, it's really just getting stronger, lifting more weight. And I've chosen to do deficit deadlifts before block pulls. And in my mind, I can't explain it quite yet, but deficit deadlifts, well, yeah, I do. Full range of motion just seems to be more important than partial range. As much as I do like partial range, like block pulls and rack pulls and whatnot, I think that the full range of motion is kind of more important to train, because that's essentially what I'm trying to build. I'm trying to build full range of motion because I want to be able to, because 465 is not that heavy for me, but when you put 1-inch blocks on it, it changes my positioning, it increases the range of motion. Anyways, hopefully in this video that you got some ideas of kind of how I think when it comes to improving your strength overall and tackling weaknesses. If you have a question or comment, please make a comment. I can make more specific videos, but I figure I just share some of the thoughts I have in my head that I want to get out there. And again, thanks for watching. Click like if you haven't already. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe.